see so many people. My name is Craig Ritchie, and I'm Professor of Brain Health and Neurodegenerative Medicine at the University of St Andrews, and also the CEO founder of Scottish Brain Sciences. And that narrative is actually quite important, because when we set up the company 18 months ago, it was in recognition of the fact that there were so many things happening scientifically, so many things poised to happen clinically, that I thought needed to be unlocked by creating this new life sciences company. There's this notion of something called the triple helix, which is where the life sciences sector, the universities, and the health sector come together to really pool their power and pool their strengths together to address major societal and health issues. But that triple helix is actually emerging and evolving into something even more important, and that's what we call the quadruple helix. Because it's all good and well for the universities and the health sector and the life sciences company to address these problems, but we cannot do it without you, the public. So the fourth strand of the quadruple helix is the public, and that's why events like this are so important for us, not to talk to you, but to listen to your concerns, to listen to the challenges that you have, and then seek to address these problems together. So after thanking my own team, I also want to thank you for coming along this evening, but also participating in the research that will make such a vital difference to people all over the world. Can we cure Alzheimer's disease? Who thinks, and we'll ask the same question at the end, see if anyone's changed their mind. Who thinks here that we can cure Alzheimer's disease? Put your hand up. Excellent. Okay, I'm going to hopefully convince you, or we're going to hopefully convince you by this end of this evening, more of you, that this is actually really within our grasp. Okay. Why is it within our grasp? Well, this is the origin story. If we turn the clock back about 115 years, the gentleman on the bottom right of this picture is Alois Alzheimer, who gave his name to the condition Alzheimer's disease. Almost more importantly, in the left is Augusta D, and she was the first patient, first person to be described as having Alzheimer's disease. And the cartoons or the drawings at the top of the page are his laboratory sketches of the two key pathological lesions in Alzheimer's disease, namely the amyloid plaque and the neurofibrillary tangle. One of the most important things about this slide, and this is why I always start all my presentations with it, is 125 years ago, Alzheimer's disease was a brain disease. It's not a cognitive disorder, it's a brain disease, defined by pathology. Amyloid plaques, neurofibrillary tangles. But the problem was, since the turn of the 20th century, we weren't able to measure this brain disease directly. We can't do brain biopsies like we can do in other branches of medicine. We can do liver biopsies, kidney biopsies, we can take blood to look for viruses and bacteria. We cannot directly visualize what's going on in the brain. So as a consequence of that, we had to describe people having Alzheimer's disease by the symptoms and the behaviors that emerged and the impact on function. And that's in many ways why I'm a psychiatrist. Psychiatrists got involved in Alzheimer's disease, because you were defining the disease in what we call phenomena. It's a phenomenological approach to the definition. And that's why, when we think of Alzheimer's disease traditionally and through the course of the 20th century, we always thought of it as an older person's condition. We always thought about it as a memory problem, as a memory disorder, as a cognitive disorder. But that's incorrect. It's a brain disease. And about 20 or 30 years ago, we started developing tests, biomarker analysis, that could start to tell what was happening in the brains of individuals without necessarily the need to just wait for clinical symptoms to emerge. And this little cartoon illustrates this. Through the course of the 20th century, we could only look at these brain diseases, which we believe to have started probably in midlife, when people started getting symptoms. And people started getting symptoms at actually a very advanced stage of the disease. Now, I'll be honest, to cure dementia is beyond us. Dementia, by the time dementia actually ensues, it's kind of the end stage of a long disease process. What we've been doing from a research perspective, through cohort studies led here in Scotland, like EPAD and Prevent Dementia, is turning our gaze to earlier in the course of the disease, people in their 40s and 50s, to try and map out what is happening in the brains of individuals who either have risk factors for dementia, like family history or head injury, or healthy controls to compare people with. And you're going to hear more from Sarah later about the Iona cohort study, which we're trying to do again, if you like, on a grander scale here within Scotland. But that's fantastic. Great research, lots of publications, lots of kudos, lots of lectures, lots of flying around the world. But it is absolutely no benefit whatsoever if that academic activity stayed in the ivory tower and had no impact on individuals. So in 2019, I took this sort of position, if you like, to the First Minister, and we established something called Brain Health Scotland. First country in the world to put in place, if you like, the prevention programs for dementia. Taking the evidence we were generating, the scientific foundations, and putting them into practice, implementing them into brain health clinics. If we were to do that, if we were to detect disease early through biomarkers, if we were to help manage the risk factors and comorbidities that cause the disease to progress, and ultimately if we were to be able to give pharmacological interventions that actually cured the disease, then we would have ipso facto prevented dementia. So the key things to achieve that within Scottish Brain Sciences is how are we contributing to that curing of Alzheimer's disease? Well, number one is to build that community. We can't do this in our labs, in our clinical research facilities, in isolation of the public who are, I think, wanting to come on this journey with us. So building this community of individuals is critically important to that journey. The second thing is, and for those of you who are participating in the trial, you know you've given blood, some of you will give CSF, because it's the identification in the blood and the spinal fluid of the early changes of Alzheimer's disease and other neurodegenerative conditions, which are going to allow us to detect people decades before symptoms emerge. And it's in those individuals that drugs that clear the tau or clear the amyloid will, in my belief, cure Alzheimer's disease. And what we also then have to do is, once we've collected all these data together, is embark on clinical trials to do the research that shows that these drugs can affect the disease course. But most importantly, set up a system that allows people at the earliest stage of the disease to be identified and enter those clinical trials. So that's the part that Scottish Brain Sciences will play in that triple helix. It's through the sort of dedication, the dynamism of the company that we believe that we can help the health sector, the universities, and indeed the public.